What's up everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So today we're going to be covering a few things surrounding Gotham Knights. It appears that the marketing has begun, according to Suspicious Tension, who is one of our audience members that has been keeping tabs to Gotham Knights like white on rice. Apparently the developers have been sharing a whole bunch of stuff via different media. There was actually a small video that eventually made its way out from the San Diego Comic-Con where they showed a little bit of the mocap. So if you want to see that, you can get on Twitter. There is a video showing all of that good stuff. And those of you that know, I love game development, so you already know I saw that particular video a whole while ago, but I never really talked about it because there wasn't a very clear version of it. So now we have a clear version, and I'm certain that this is something you'll probably enjoy. So you can pretty much see a lot of the work that goes into this entire development premise. Now, as of today, nonetheless, we have some upcoming news, or I would say upcoming information from IGN. If you want to mark your calendars, I suggest that you actually do so, because Gotham Knights is going to be revealing about 28 superhero suits in Gotham Knights, and there's going to be some more information, and the time and date is August the 3rd, Wednesday, 11 a.m. Central. So make sure that you tune your calendars as well to follow that time frame. I will probably be noon Eastern. It will be somewhere maybe 9 Pacific, and if you're on Mountain Time, you're 10 a.m. in the United States or North America. America is whatever it is. And I'm sure that this is going to be something that a lot of people are looking forward to. There is no doubt about that. Some people really want to see these superheroes decked out in their favorite outfits, and I'm certain that some people are also in a position where they already know what outfits they want to wear, and they're going to be looking towards getting a lowdown on all of these different outfits. So 28 of them are going to be showcased. I'm hoping they do something like maybe 7 of them representing 4 for each hero, but I think we already know that there are going to be more than these 28 in the game, but this is just showing 28 of them to us as the entire month-long Gotham Knights circuit is going on. But more importantly for today's video is something that I've been seeing kind of circulate around the Batgirl gameplay, and this is regarding the combat. My last video, we talked a little bit about the opening 15 minutes. Some people had some preference where they thought the dialogue was maybe a little too much. Some people thought it was fine, but all these are preferences. I think in video games, many people have things that they like or things that they don't necessarily like, but I don't think it's necessarily the deal breaker in that sense, just something that people just pointed out. But for this particular one, for combat, I think it's one that people are kind of requesting for, or maybe pointing out that it will probably make the combat seem slightly better, and that is a lock-on feature for your character when you're fighting. This is something where you can just, lock your camera to not necessarily rotate out of the view of an enemy that you're probably focused on. And this is something where people are saying if you were to maybe dodge, the game probably should allow for you to still have that character in front of you, or have you face the character after having dodged. Now for this one, I have to really input some really technical aspects to how this mechanic is more than likely not going to show up in the game. Now it's possible that within the 2 months that we have, they can actually make it happen, but it doesn't necessarily work in the case of this particular game, and that is for a lot of reasons. So regardless of how you see Gotham Knights or how you perceive Gotham Knights, I think this request is coming from somewhere where we've played other games and there were lock-on features with them. And so whenever you roll or dodge or do something, your lock-on feature usually stays on. Only maybe some enemies that dash back and forth will probably get you unlocked from them just naturally, and then you do that input again and you lock back on them so you can focus on them, see what attacks they're doing, and be able to respond accordingly. But in this particular case, the way the Gotham Knights game is designed, it's designed with mob battles in mind, and the camera focus and the way they've decided to move around with things is more than likely going to make it somewhat of a challenge, because you're going to have all of the different mechanics that are pretty much speaking to you in a different way. So maybe you're fighting a character that's a melee character, you're fighting against an enemy that uses a melee weapon, and then there's another enemy in your periphery that you can or can't see that's about to throw a projectile or maybe one of those Molotovs to you. You have to dodge in a way that allows for you to freely move away from danger without having the restrictions of your camera being locked to a certain place, if you get what I mean. So the combat is inherently designed in a way that doesn't necessarily support this lock-on system in a fluid way. Now, maybe for bosses, it might be something that you could probably use, or if you're not necessarily in a position where you don't mind unlocking before you dodge, then I think that might work. But at the same time, it appears to me that the combat has been designed to its most advanced stage. So adding a functionality like that seems like it's a small thing, but it really does require a lot more testing, a lot more ensuring that it doesn't make the game buggy or make the game break. Perhaps this could be a feature that they add later on, but I would not necessarily think that that is something that the creative direction and the technical direction of the game would want to go right now. Now, many of you know in this channel, we do a little bit of dabbling into game development, so I wanted to go ahead and kind of give you a little bit of a taste of what this can look like. So many of you know that in Unreal Engine, we have an entire marketplace where people make systems and sell. And this is something that you can use to quickly prototype. You can take, modify, and use to make your own game or your own video game prototype. So I was able to get my hands on a combat system that's already been built, already been designed, and one that actually has a lock-on feature. I could have built one from scratch, but I didn't necessarily have the time to do that. There are tutorials and there are guides that actually can walk you through. I'm not necessarily the best programmer, so I usually seek a lot of help from forums and YouTube videos, but I was able to get this package that was already done, and it does have a lock-on mechanism and a dodge roll mechanism as well. Now, don't laugh at the animations. They're just really cheap placeholder animations. You can change them to really fluid and wonderful animations if you want, but this is just a prototype to show you guys some of the challenges that this is going to affect. So in a situation like this, when you lock onto a character that's in, say, a plethora of other characters, one of the challenges that you will face is picking exactly the character that you want to lock onto. If you notice in some video games that have the lock-on feature, this could be a problem. Like I remember playing in God of War, it felt like most times you were just better off if you were fighting a plethora of enemies and maybe one big boss that you have to be worried about. You were just better off just leaving the unlock camera out of things, because that lock functionality also uses a camera rotation functionality to move from character to character and does it seamlessly. So if the main character that you're trying to focus on moves away or you turn around to dodge another character, the lock-on functionality moves to somebody else, and now you're locked into that person, and perhaps the boss is right behind you and they maul you from behind because you couldn't unlock fast enough to get to focus on who it is that you're trying to pay attention to. So this is usually a problem. Another thing too is whenever you dodge while you're in this particular lock system, it appears that gamers are wanting the camera or your character to face whoever it was that you were locked on before. Now, there are probably many ways to execute something like this, but this would have had to be done from the fundamental framework of the combat, and a specific camera protocol would have had to be developed to allow for the player to go back and store the character that you were last locked on, and then whenever you dodge, the camera resets back to that character. And then also that protocol has to account for the possibility that maybe that character's health, maybe you throw an area of effect attack and that character is about to hit you and the area of effect attack melts their health and you dodge, then that protocol is going to go back and say, oh no, the character that we're supposed to revert to just basically died, so now we have to randomly select another character, or hopefully if you're facing this direction, find the nearest enemy that is closest to you so that you can pretty much face them. From a development perspective, this is not only going to require a lot of coding, but also require a lot of performance needs, because you have to have a system that's constantly tracking for all of these different scenarios. And I think now, as people are seeing this combat system fully get fleshed out and looking for these functionality, I hope it brings people to the position where they understand that the free flow system was not necessarily used or utilized because it was the best system. It was used because you could resolve a lot of these issues by allowing for you to use a simple protocol that just selected whatever direction the player was facing or whatever direction they input into their controller, and then whenever they hit attack, your player would just attack in that direction and track and find the nearest enemy. The free flow system is a superior work of art when it comes to programming, and I know many people, whenever you mention it in terms of Gotham Knights, people get their hairs on fire. They're like, well, this isn't Arkham. I'm like, we know, but what we're saying is the difficulty of putting together a free flow system was what made it the most amazing thing in game development, because not only was it hard to put together, it was also very interesting the way that it was done, and it actually worked to help resolve those problems where you didn't have to deal with the lock-on mechanism and the issues that it could face. But not saying that we need a free flow in Gotham Knights, just saying without maybe a free flow or a dedicated lock-on system to deal with those issues, what Gotham Knights has is actually quite useful and does work. It is a little awkward and seems to be able to break combat, but whoever is playing would have to compensate with other input commands and functionality that you have, like maybe quickly turning and running to a character that you feel you need to keep attacking, or quickly swapping your cameras and moving fast to whatever character it is that you want to deal with. I think those who are using a mouse will enjoy this more than anybody else because the camera rotation on a mouse is much faster than that on a controller. And I think that's what we were seeing in the game, because whenever you hit a character or you dodge from one character, now you're facing a whole different place and you have to compensate by rotating your camera. And so it just felt a little wonky, but that is the very best way you can do a combat if you're not inherently building from ground up all of these systems that would allow for you to go back and maybe reset and look at maybe the character you dodge from, or look at another character if that character is dead, or all of those different scenarios that you have to pretty much account for. But nonetheless, I'll take my time to do a little bit more into this combat scenario and combat systems, because I really want to go ahead and just explain why I think the scenarios that we have so far and why people are making these requests is because they're already used to combat systems that were built from ground up to answer some of the questions that they have right now. So it's up to the developers. I don't know if 2 months is enough for them to go back and fundamentally do anything with this combat, but right now it seems like they have a working game. And after 8 years and maybe 2 more months to go, I suggest that we probably just leave it as is, and then maybe they'll learn in the future as to how this particular mechanic is either enjoyable or not enjoyable over the course of dozens and dozens of hours of playthrough. But nonetheless, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section. There is so much to discuss regarding the development side of things. If you have any questions or if you have any comments, please feel free to leave them in the comment section. If you've not joined the Video Game Fight School community, what are you waiting for? We'd like to have you. Hopefully we'll talk very soon. Peace out.